All right, welcome, guys. So we're going to talk about the race between Russell and Antonelli. Everybody's saying that Russell had a fantastic weekend and he just got unlucky. But anybody who knows Formula One and knows it really well, Russell was struggling with understeer and snap on the low corners and the chicanes, and Antonelli was catching him every lap on the chicane because Antonelli knows how to drive tight corners with low grip, and Russell doesn't know how to do that. It's very clear, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today is that if you didn't read the radio comments, Antonelli was disrespecting Russell all week. I don't think he would have done this with Verstappen or anybody else because I think Antonelli realized that Russell is a prefect and an arrogant what's the best word I would use for him? He's an arrogant person who is entitled and thinks he's going to win the title and disrespected Antonelli big time by last year saying, "Oh, next year is my year." You have your teammate, even if you feel you're better than your teammate. Why would you say that? And I think Antonelli has had him in his head. So let's start off with the sprint race. In the sprint race, Antonelli was trying to pass Russell, and Russell squeezed him. I think Russell was fair to squeeze him because Verstappen would have squeezed Antonelli. Then Antonelli went on the radio and said, "This guy is squeezing me. He's not doing the right thing." And the radio people said, "Okay, Antonelli." They tried to redirect him. They said, "Okay, Antonelli, focus on your race." And then Antonelli said, "But look at him. He's losing. He's driving too hard. He's lost his grip. I'm going to pass him." Then when Antonelli passed him, he said, "Okay, now it's time for me to hunt because this guy is finished." I'm paraphrasing. So what Antonelli is doing now, for him to say that Russell is over driving after Russell squeezed him out, and he's watching Russell and he knows that Russell is over driving, that's a diss to Russell because he's not saying, "Oh, Russell is treating me unfair." He says he's over driving and I can do better. Okay. After the race, Antonelli said, "I learned something new about myself. I can get emotional. And also, I learned that I can challenge Russell on his track, on tracks that he's good on." I follow. Haven't I been saying before that this is his last chance because on tracks with low corners, you can't win. So
Yeah.
this shows you that Antonelli knows that in Monaco and everywhere else, he'll beat Russell. And he said, "I can challenge him on a track where he's supposed to be better than me." And he said, "And who knows, if the race hadn't finished, I might have beaten him." And here's the big question. We don't know who would have won that race. I think Antonelli would have won it because I think Russell was pushing himself so far and he was losing grip every time he reached that chicane. So and then on the British news, people are saying Russell had a valiant race. He showed he's a professional. If he hadn't crashed, he would have won. They're not reading the subtext. The subtext is that Antonelli now is beginning to disrespect Russell verbally and is racing him head to head as the supposedly junior driver. And as far as I'm concerned, after winning four in a row and being 43 points ahead, Antonelli is the number one driver on this team. Um, Russell is delusional. He's not reading the things. Last year, Toto Wolff didn't give him a contract until October. And Toto Wolff is continually flirting with Max Verstappen as if Max Verstappen is going to become his second wife, and he's a Muslim guy who has two or three, and didn't want to sign this guy, and was even talking to Verstappen's dad and laughing in the paddock. So George Russell is like these British guys who are very proper and they don't realize you're fucking being played. Even if Russell wins the championship this year, if Verstappen comes, they're going to get rid of Russell. It's clear that Antonelli, at 19 years old, is far beyond George Russell. This was supposed to be George Russell's year, and he's lost four in a row. This week he has the excuse that his car was not bad. In Miami, before Miami, he's such a coward. He said, I don't expect to win this week because I know Miami is in my grip. And this shows you that you're not a driver. When you say that Miami is in my track because it's low grip, it's saying that's a way of telling me that you're not Verstappen because you don't know how to drive on tracks with no grip. And he said, "Oh, this is my track because it has a lot of grip." That means you're telling us you don't know how to drive because the best type of driver drives on tracks that don't have grip. So what Russell doesn't realize is he's telling us he doesn't have talent. What are your thoughts, Afolabi?
You're absolutely right. I mean, he had hoped to take the lead back or at least close the gap on Mercedes teammate Kimi Antonelli during this Montreal weekend. But it all looked to be going his way. But the critical observation here is Russell's entire Canada weekend was built on desperation. There was no strategy. Russell
No.
batted away his awful Miami round. He called it a boogie track. So to then have to fight tooth and nail just about to edge Antonelli, at a typical customary Russell stronghold. He's taken every Montreal pole since 2024 and won there last year. Wasn't exactly a swashbuckling return to form. But if you look at it, Russell could only barely beat Antonelli, and that should have
No, and that's assuming that he would beat him because they were racing neck to neck. Go
neck to
ahead.
neck.
Yeah.
So, and that should have been a confidence boost. Instead, it revealed how much ground he had lost, basically. It revealed his weakness and how much ground he had
No.
lost.
And can you imagine Verstappen saying, "Oh, I'm not going to do well on this track because it's low grip." Can you imagine him saying that? You're making excuses before Miami. Then he said, "I'll win in Canada." He was banking on Canada, right? Which
Even
I'm
his
not even sure he would
post-Miami
have won.
comments were negative. He said it was a tough race. He already conceded that he was behind.
Losing to a 19-year-old kid. Let me tell you, Antonelli. I don't believe Antonelli would talk like that about Verstappen if they were racing neck to neck. I think that on the paddock, everybody knows George Russell is the school prefect. Nobody likes the school prefect. There's a word. I feel like we tell people what Ahmed Boy
The
means when you
principal's
call
son.
somebody Ahmed
He's
Boy
the principal's son.
that goes and snitches on everybody. Russell tries to win by snitching, but he doesn't try to learn how to handle grip. What are your thoughts, Mr. Johnny? Yeah. Man,
Yeah,
I'll
I
carry
think
on today. Go ahead.
what's happening to Russell is actually quite terrible for him. I mean, well, but I think
I actually feel bad for him. Yeah.
yeah, but what's his name? Kimi racing behind Russell, he could find out Russell's weaknesses. He was able to find out his weakness and and capitalize on it actually. And that's probably what Russell too should have done. Even though Kimi overtook him, then maybe he just stay behind, study his enemy, and then take him out. And that's what should have happened. He should
No,
have just taken it easy,
sorry,
and then
Johnny. I'm going to
but he
interrupt
was
you very quickly. I'm going to interrupt you quickly.
yeah.
Lorato, do you remember when Verstappen said Norris is slowing down in the pit? They said, "How do you know?" I can hear his engine on the radio. Do you remember that?
Yeah, sure.
So that's what you're saying, Johnny. Antonelli looked at
Yeah,
Russell and could see that he was losing grip. That means Antonelli is
yeah.
perceptive. Russell is in his own world. He doesn't observe other drivers. He doesn't know about the mechanics of racing. He just snitches on
Yeah.
people and focuses on his linear downshifting. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead, Johnny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly why Russell is going to have problems. And Russell again, what I've also noticed about him, when it comes to middle of the race, when it comes to that keeping it always
Yeah,
100 every
keeping it
time.
rhythmic and metronomic. Yeah.
Like he loses focus easily. He loses focus. There was a time, I don't know what I can't remember what year and what race, but I think it was in Canada. What's his name? It was Verstappen,
In Canada.
Lewis Hamilton, Alonso, and then at the back was Russell. All of them were all racing hard into it. They were all chasing each other, and then all of a sudden Russell started losing. He couldn't keep up with them, and he tried, and then he did something and messed up, and he crashed out. But that's what I'm saying. That as in he doesn't have it. He doesn't have that like all the other guys have. All of them,
No, he's
all the
not
guys
a
I mentioned.
racer.
That's it. They're all champions. They're all. He's a racer, but he's not like he doesn't have that champion, DNA. That kind of thing that
No, no, no.
distinguishes one. That's what's missing in Russell. So
And
yeah,
and I was funny enough to say that if Verstappen joined Red Bull this year, I mean joined Mercedes, it would be close between him and it wouldn't even be close because this car, the Mercedes car, is now more fronty and pointy, and it has more rear instability because of the rules where you have to have more straight line speed. I believe that if it was last year's regs, Russell would be beating Antonelli now, because last year you had ground effects where you could have more
oh yeah.
downforce. But what is proving is that Russell can't drive without downforce. All right, what are your thoughts on Mr. Lorato on both points? On the point about Antonelli disrespecting Russell and also Russell not being able to handle low grip. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's troubling that for him it should be very troubling that he couldn't keep Antonelli at bay on this track that he's supposed to be so very dominant at. As everyone had been saying, this was Russell's weekend. to lose, and I think that's how it turned out. And I think, I mean, if there's one thing that I'd always say I've appreciated about Russell is his opportunism. Like the way he stays
Yeah,
in a race in order to take opportunities when they fall to him.
he's a
But I
vulture.
think, yeah, I think this week, what got exposed is that he's panic prone, which I think is going to cost them a lot in terms of team stand. I think, I mean, I was saying even before the show that we can't even talk about team orders and things like that when you're clearly behind, even as a senior driver. Seniority sort of goes out the window at this rate when Antonelli's like 4 races up. And when we look at sort of like the championship mathematically, he's halfway to winning a championship if he keeps being in podium spaces and he wins 4 more races. Um, it like mathematically, that's what it would take for him to sort of win the championship, unless something really catastrophic happens. Um, so in as far as the championship race is even at Mercedes, uh, I think Antonelli is like de facto the number one driver now.
Yeah,
Um, and it's a difficult concession that Russell has to make. And I think this was the race where he had to decide in terms of whether like, I think he felt it in his bones that he was going to have to make that concession if he didn't win this race,
yeah.
in the way that he won the sprint. Yeah, and then I think lastly, I mean, for me, what always speaks volumes is data. And I went and I checked the telemetry in terms of how the two drivers were doing, and you could see that Russell was overdriving. He was always on the throttle, um, even when he had to be off of it. Kimi was coasting, harvesting his battery, and using it when it mattered most. So he was very calculating and very strategic in terms of how he did that. And I think, yeah, Russell has like some problems to deal with in terms of his psyche, in terms of how he approaches the race, and how he drives the car under these current regulations, because you can't be over throttling and
No,
all those things. You have
Loretta,
to manage.
you don't have Venturi tunnels anymore that take care of
Yeah.
everything. This is not downforce era. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so you have to manage your energy, manage your speed, manage your braking points. So if you're under braking and over throttling, you're not charging your batteries hard enough, and you don't have enough to deploy when it comes
Yeah.
to the straights, which is exactly how Kimi was catching up to him, because I could see in the data, uh, especially in the laps where, like, when you compare this last lap.
Especially on the corners. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
tight
You
corners.
could see that Kimi was lifting a little bit earlier, um, but he was at least very methodical in terms of how he applies that speed when he comes out of the corner.
And see, Loretta, you just did a PhD. Motherfucker, you did a PhD. And this is something that remember I felt like you said this before, that clearly Antonelli has been doing homework during the off season.
Sure,
Do you remember that? I felt like
sure.
he and we all thought that Russell was the professor. No, Antonelli is quietly, because Antonelli is reaching Max Verstappen levels, but it's not through Max Verstappen has good intuition and good instincts. It's clear that when Antonelli takes corners, it's through calculations and through managing the computer system and everything. So what I'm saying is that Antonelli doesn't have raw speed like Verstappen. But
Yeah,
like this, but what he does is that he's learning how to map this, all of these things, and this goes back to what Johnny said, in which these young kids that grow up, we grew up with typewriters, they have phones, they have coding, they're going to adapt better to this management of the algorithm. And it's clear that Antonelli's doing his work. George Russell, during the offseason, he was getting knighted by Queen Elizabeth. He was going to give food to hungry children in Africa. He was doing the legal structure of F1. Antonelli was on the sim machine doing work. I don't think George Russell takes the sim. And if you guys notice, even Hamilton, who doesn't like the sim machine, has adapted better to this era than Russell, because Russell has not adapted to this. And if I remember last year, I thought Russell would adapt to this era because he's very analytical. But I'm now really realizing is that Russell is analytical, but he doesn't use the sim machine. He's analytical when it comes to ground effect. Remember last year, Lorato, where Russell could see where the wind was blowing and he adjusted his corners. Remember that?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
So what I'm saying is that Russell's analytical, but he hasn't been using his analysis on the sim and on the data and the technology that he has. What are your thoughts, Johnny? Real quickly, yeah. Is Johnny there? Maybe Johnny
No,
cut out.
I think it's frozen.
Well, I'll go back to you, Lorato. What are your thoughts about that? That Russell's analytical, but he might be old days analytical using a logarithm table rather than a calculator. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean the analytical sort of part of him is still there. But I think he's not applying it very well in this in this season, during this season, or as well as, I mean, he should be. And I think that's where he's sort of having problems and having challenges. Because he this is where that that skill is most needed when like at the beginning of a new season,
Yeah.
at the beginning of like new regulations and things like that. He needs to be a little bit more mindful in terms of how the car works, what the car is doing, how it reacts to the different conditions and things like that. And I think, I mean, a big part of this race at Canada um, had to do with like conditions, like road conditions, tire conditions, and we've always known someone like George to even rival Hamilton at preserving tires and being a tire whisperer and all those things. But he was getting all those things wrong this week during the race. I think he might have managed it a little bit better during the sprint, even though, I mean, there were
Antonelli
all
had
these
better race
moments of,
pace in the sprint, and if that race had been a long race, they projected that he would have won it. That's what they're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah,
You know, let me
yeah.
tell you what I think, Lorato, before I go back to you. He wasn't
Sure.
doing all those things because he's emotional and panicking, so he's not thinking clearly right now. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think that is the problem, that the panic is taking over his psyche.
Yeah.
And even I think even his reaction. I mean, if we consider him as this person who's the prefect, who knows all the rules, he knows not to throw anything onto the road the way he did
Yeah.
when his car stalled and everything like that. In as much as we understand the frustration, um, but this kind of shows a crack in terms of his psyche.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
that
it shows that he's human. It shows he's human. That's all. But he keeps on trying to deny that he's a human. He
Yeah,
wants us to
yeah.
think he's.
But maybe that crack is something that might do him some good if he releases a lot of that
Yeah.
tension, so that he can be a little bit more focal. Because once you, I mean, even anyone who's emotionally intelligent will tell you, once you've dealt with the anger, it's out of the way. You don't have to
Yeah.
dwell on it. Then
Mhm.
just sit and focus on the next task.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what he needs to do moving forward,
I
if
agree.
he has a chance at continuing to be a contender in this championship.
Yeah, he needs to focus because let's forget about all him panicking and everything. Antonelli has improved. Antonelli is known for being good on slow speed corners. And now this car has changed because Russell likes a rear stable car. in these regs, your car has to be more aerodynamic for the straight, so it has less rear grip. So Russell's at a disadvantage. But now what he needs to do is figure out how to solve that problem and stop making excuses about, oh, I'm going to lose this weekend. Try to figure out, and what he needs to do is don't copy what Antonelli's doing. Try to figure out where he can find advantages over a lap over Antonelli and just focus on that. That's what I think. Last thoughts are Falabi. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He has to humble himself and find out where the deficiency are. Basically, he arrived at Montreal. He was 20 points behind Antonelli after Miami. 3 poles, three
Yeah.
wins, and now he's driving the development direction of Mercedes. That is Antonelli. Antonelli is the senior voice in the garage now, not Russell. Now, that has to sink in. A 19-year-old rookie is now directing development on the car. Russell's status has been demoted. So he has to take his frame of mind and reshape it and humble himself. Even Ralph Schumacher warned, he said Russell risked slipping permanently into number 2 role, similar to what Valtteri Bottas did during the Lewis Hamilton era. So this is Russell's nightmare, the exact reverse of what he expected. So basically, he has to get his mind together and find subtle solutions and not overdrive to try and prove a point. The judge from last year, Damon Hill said something. He said the judge from last year, he think is gone missing a little bit, not just underperforming, but he suggests that he has a psychological fragmentation. So everything has everything has come to bear on him at the same time. If he goes to Monaco with this kind of mentality, he's going to DNF. He can't afford to overdrive in Monaco.
No, he can't do that. Yeah. And you're going into the most difficult track, low speed corners, Monaco.
Low speed corners, very technical. He's
and
going to DNF.
curve and everything else.
Yes.
And Antonelli is showing us now that he's adaptable because no matter what track he's on, he's always fighting. He's fighting. Russell has fallen back. I think in some races in Miami, he came 4th or 5th. There's no excuse for you coming 4th or 5th in the fastest car. You should be coming 2nd to your teammate. Last thoughts about that, Monaco, and the fact that Russell shouldn't be coming 4th or 5th to anybody. He should be always coming 2nd if he doesn't win. Sure. What do you think, Lorato? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Mercedes has proven that they have the fastest sort of package thus far. Everyone is sort of struggling to catch up with them. And of course we should be seeing 1-2s from them as we were sort of prone to see today had it not been for Russell's DNF. But yeah, I think that's where the team should be. And I think I mean, him underperforming in the way that he's been doing is also sort of costing the team points when
McLaren is on their tail. McLaren might start beating them. McLaren might beat them in Monaco.
I mean, with McLaren, it's just a matter of them getting their act correct. Yeah, we know they do all these crazy strategy things like we saw this weekend. But they can get
permutation.
Yeah. They can get that engineering correct, and on a good weekend, McLaren is often very unbeatable or challenging to anyone. We know that currently they are the second fastest team in terms of whatever packages that are there, because they have the same engine as Mercedes. And they have this balance that we keep speaking about. So they are a threat in terms of the Constructors' Championship. So I think Russell really needs to pick up his socks so that he's able to sort of also protect the team's
reputation,
interest.
Yeah, he needs to stop talking about whatever drivers are doing. Oh, Verstappen did this. He needs to become introverted and myopic and just focus on himself. That's what he needs to do. Yeah, but this has been a good show though. I thought I would take us out. I thought there's no way we're doing the Argentina football today. We do that one tomorrow morning.
Okay, we can do it tomorrow.
We were trying to do back to back World Cup
Yeah.
Argentina. There's no way. I had a wine already. I'm done. I thought we can do it tomorrow at 12 noon. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, sorry I cut you, Lorato. Any last thought? Yeah.
No, man. No last thoughts. I think it's like
Covered
really.
everything.
Yeah.
Even that
I
piece
mean,
that you gave us, that's an actual.
it looks like last season when Norris was fancied, and all of a sudden there was this small boy called Piastri who hit the ground running. But all along, Norris tried his best to, to remedy the situation along with Verstappen and everything. But this time around, even the same way Russell won Australia the first race and everything, but Russell doesn't have a clue right now. He doesn't have a clue right now how to get back.
Because Norris told the drivers, he told his team, he said, I can't feel the front. You better do something. And they gave him the front geometry. That's what Russell should be doing.
Yeah.
He should be saying, I don't have rear grip. Can we change my setup to give me a little bit more rear grip, even if it's less speed? Because if he has that rear grip, it'll give him so much confidence that he can launch himself. What do you think, Lorato, quickly about that? He needs to be vocal about change. Same thing with Verstappen. Even if Hadjar is beating Verstappen, Verstappen won't say, give me Hadjar's setup. Still stick with his setup, even losing, because he needs to find something comfortable for him. Quickly on that, Lorato,
No.
like 30
I
seconds.
do think
What do you
he
think?
needs to find a setup that works for him. He
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to use the same setup that Kimi is using, because mechanically and sort of like muscle memory wise, in terms of mechanics, they're two different drivers, two different physiques. You can't be doing the same thing. But yeah, and like I'm saying, I'm just like seeing, just like looking at like that last lap. If you look at the data on that last lap, I think you'll see on that lap 29. I mean, Kimi was always in the 300s in terms of speed, and Russell was not matching that speed, even when he was not on the throttle as much as Russell was, and even when he was not sort of like over braking in the same, that like late braking in the same way that Russell was, and I don't think, So I mean, I'm not sure what kind of setup Russell had, and how he was driving the car to sort of have it underperform and have so little grip. But I think this idea that he was over driving the car, as Kimi sort of diagnosed it, was the problem. You don't need to let the car sort of carry you through the corners and things like that, and that way you carry more speed through the lap, as opposed to what he was trying to do. I think he did well. He did that very well in qualifying. I don't know why he struggled to do it in the race. Why
the problem is that qualifying is a performance test. Qualifying is just one lap, but the pace that you use for qualifying, he pushed that car. You can't maintain that for 60 laps. That's the problem. And they won't say it. We will never know, because Mercedes won't tell us the truth. But I think George Russell broke that car because he has a history of using high engine modes. But that'll be a story for another day. We can do some forensics.
I think he pushed that car a little too far. Yeah.
And he didn't push it. What he did was he I'm not contradicting you, Father. But when we say he pushed it too far, it means two things. He gave it an engine mode which was unrealistic for a whole race, and at the same time he was also pushing it too hard, and that shit stopped. You know why that thing stopped? You know why everything shut down? Because the computer was smart enough to know that he was going to destroy that car and maybe even kill himself. I'm serious. That's why that thing shut down. The algorithm said, "Okay, boy, you can't handle this. You're not going to stop." I'm serious. All right, very good show, guys. Fantastic. Take us out of Falabi.
Okay, it's been another brilliant show. It's been Formula One. Antonelli, Russell will be back again. Bye for now.
So Lorato, I'll see you. We'll do a